SIMAGIC Alpha Wheelbase has been a fan favourite for many years, bridging that gap between performance and value. While it has performed valiantly, it's now time for the next generation of SIMAGIC wheelbase to step up. The new SIMAGIC Alpha Evo wheelbase is that next generation. Much like the original Alpha before it, the Evo comes in 3 versions, each offering a different price point and performance range. This new base offers a host of improvements and new features, while somehow lowering the cost of entry. SIMAGIC has been very kind in sending out this Alpha Evo Pro specifically for this review, so it's time to jump in and see exactly what's on offer and importantly how it performs. Kicking things off, as you open the box, you're greeted with the usual array of cables, stickers and a quick start guide, and then you get to the main attraction itself, the base. First impressions are superb thanks to the sleek curved edges and the slightly textured CNC machined aluminium outer case. This may look like a big slab of metal, but there really are some nice touches throughout. The front of the wheelbase features the illusion of vents. Now, in the marketing images, these look like real vents, but in reality, they are a plastic design with actually zero venting capability. There is branding throughout and additional fake vents at the rear, and it also feels incredibly dinky with a pretty slimline 130 by 110mm front profile. Compared to my Fanatec Clubsport DD+, the Fanatec wheel looks like a rather chunky boy. Now, before delving too far into our full review, let's talk about prices. I mentioned that SIMAGIC has somehow managed to lower the cost of this wheelbase over the older Alpha, and that's true across all 3 variations. Rather than the Mini and Ultimate naming from the original Alpha, SIMAGIC has opted to name these wheels the Evo Sport, Evo and Evo Pro. Sounds familiar, right? Now, the Sport model delivers 9Nm of peak torque at a cost of $399. The Evo increases the strength up to 12Nm and costs $550, and the larger Evo Pro tops out at 18Nm of peak torque and costs $699. That's worth noting that these prices do exclude tax, so depending where you're located, this price will increase. I've also included UK pricing on screen now from official reseller Race Anywhere, and the UK prices that I've shown do include VAT. Now, you may have noticed what I just said, that SIMAGIC has chosen to lower the peak torque values compared to the original Alpha wheelbase. The Sport has 9Nm compared to 10 of the original, the Evo has 12Nm compared to 15 from the original Alpha, and the Evo Pro now has 18Nm instead of 23. SIMAGIC has also lowered the price for each model compared to the older bases. On screen is a comparison between the older Alpha wheelbase cost and the newer Alpha Evo wheels, and you can see that there is a saving of up to $300 for the top model. Now, this is quite a tactical change in my opinion, with SIMAGIC really targeting other brands. The MOZA R9, one of the most popular racing wheels about, has 9Nm of peak torque, while their R12 and the Fanatec Clubsport DD both have 12Nm. SIMAGIC has mirrored these competitors with the Evo Sport and the Evo. With this pricing and force feedback performance, SIMAGIC really has major player Fanatec beat in terms of value. The Alpha Evo Pro costs $699 and delivers more peak torque than the rather expensive Clubsport DD Plus that now costs an eye-watering $1,299 after the recent price increase. That is almost half the price of the comparable Fanatec wheel. Now, does this make the SIMAGIC Evo a no-brainer? Well, let's find out with the rest of our review. Now, design is subjective, and I do like the aggressive styling of my Clubsport DD+. However, the smaller front profile and the sleek curves of the Evo wheelbase are incredibly appealing. Both the regular Evo and the Pro models are slightly longer than the R12 and Fanatec Clubsport DD, however they are shallower in height than both of those competitors, which is the most important dimension in my opinion. This lets you mount your TV or monitor just that much lower, which can really improve your immersion. This more traditional, longer profile also reminds me of more premium wheelbases from brands such as Simucube, as does the simple nature of the design. The aluminium housing adds a lot to this premium appearance as well, although it is worth noting that the rear segment of the base is plastic and not metal, Not that you're really going to see this part overly often, as it's going to be tucked behind your monitor or out of sight, but unfortunately the entire front of the base is also plastic, which you are much more likely to see. Now, all three of these wheelbase variations bridge the gap between mid-range and premium in their design, thanks to those curves and the really sleek look, while being slightly let down by some of the plastic finishes. However, the real party piece here is the customizable RGB ring that wraps around the wheel shaft. This isn't the first time we've seen RGB lights on a wheelbase, with Acertech and Thrustmaster implementing similar segments on their wheels. And if I'm being honest, it's not really a feature that I can get too excited about. There's no doubt that the RGB ring looks really striking in marketing images and videos. However, even after using an Acertech, Thrustmaster, and now SIMAGIC wheels with RGBs, I'm yet to be sold on the application really adding too much to the overall experience. You can set the light to change based on the telemetry data, which could be useful to some sim racers, but the positioning of the ring right behind the wheel means that depending on which steering wheel you use, you probably won't see these RGB lights all that much. I've had a few wheel rims connected to this wheelbase, including SIMAGIC's own NeoX hub. From my natural seating position, I can't see the RGB light at all unless I turn off the lights in my room. If I sit right up, I can just about see the top of the RGB ring. Now, these are really bright, and like I said, in a dark room you can get a nice glow coming from behind the wheel. However, for me, someone who relies on haptics or built-in screens on my wheels, this light ring really doesn't add too much. Now, SIMAGIC has chosen to continue with the same mounting profile as the original Alpha base, which is very handy if you're upgrading from that one to this. You won't need to adjust your sim rig to accommodate this new base at all. The flexibility over mounting is really good, with pre-drilled side and bottom mounting holes, and this lets you adapt your mounting position to whichever style of sim racing rig you have. There are also side adapters, front adapters as well, so you have real choice over how you mount your wheel. And I had zero problems mounting this directly to my next level racing cockpit. SIMAGIC has done an excellent job with the overall connectivity of this wheelbase as well. Most brands include a few ports on the rear for your set of pedals or the odd shifter or accessory, and the Evo wheelbase does have these ports and then some more. You're going to find 2 full rows of data ports on the rear, with more connections than pretty much any other wheelbase on the market. There are a total of 8 RJ45 ports, plus 3 USB ports and a USB-C port as well. SIMAGIC stated that they have also upgraded the connections to incorporate the improved CAN-FD protocol, and this allows for higher data transmission speeds and larger data payloads, removing the risk of any bottlenecks or performance stumbles. Heading back to the front, SIMAGIC has added a series of magnets along the top of the wheel. These are designed specifically to incorporate the upcoming magnetic DDUs that SIMAGIC are currently working on, and they're going to let you easily snap a dash onto the base without any additional mounting requirements. This is a really nice touch when being used. However, when you're not using it, you do have those gold connections on show at all times. Maybe a little black cover that you could just clip in would have been ideal for when you're not using one of the magnetic DDUs. Now, SIMAGIC is using the same tried and tested quick release, but with improvements over the old Alpha bases. There are a new series of magnets incorporated directly into the quick release, ensuring even greater contact with your wheel. The SIMAGIC wheelside QR still uses the tried and tested ball bearing connection method, despite introducing these magnets as well. And the magnet's job really is primarily to prevent wireless connection disruptions. Both power and data is transmitted through these wireless gold-plated connection ports on the front of the quick release. This lets any SIMAGIC wheel transfer power and data without the need for cables or hard wiring. Now, before looking at the software and performance, I do want to mention a few little things that I'm not actually that keen on with the design. I've already mentioned the RGB light ring, so I'm not going to touch on that again. The inclusion of plastic at the rear and front of the wheel, and the plastic fake venting removes a little bit of the premium look. There is also a lot of branding across this wheel. On the front we have a subtle Evo logo which is nicely embossed. Then there's a much larger A logo on the rear which signifies the Alpha product lineup. We've also got the SIMAGIC logo and Up Plus branding on the front of the wheel. And this signifies the overall Up Plus modular ecosystem that includes those DDUs and some steering wheels that are upcoming. Plus a sneaky SIMAGIC logo on the rear. That's 5 individual brand logos, and really I don't think they're needed. A simple SIMAGIC logo across the front or top would have done the job and call it quits there. Adding the Up Plus and the Alpha branding in particular, to me just confuses the identity a little bit. There's also a really ugly yellow sticker that says quite clearly not to remove. Thankfully, it's easily removable. But those small and fairly inconsequential niggles are really it. Overall, I still love the look and design of this wheel. Now, unlike Fanatec, you can't adjust your force feedback settings on the wheel directly. You have to use the Sim Pro Manager software, which is SIMAGIC's hub for controlling every piece of hardware in its ecosystem. Compared to other softwares, Sim Pro is up there with one of the cleanest and easiest to use. You get a good amount of customization and adjustments without ever feeling too overwhelmed. After connecting your wheelbase, updating the firmware, you'll see the Alpha Evo base active in the bottom row of icons. Clicking this brings up all of the adjustments available. Here you can change settings such as your force feedback strength, wheel rotation, and moving along you can access some more advanced settings if you really want to fine tune your experience. Every option has a nice pop-up helper to explain what the setting changes. But don't worry, if you don't fancy learning the ins and outs of each advanced setting, there are a good number of presets available. SIMAGIC has included presets for pretty much every game with adjustments to every part of the wheel automatically made when you select them. You can also save your own presets, giving them specific tags which lets you filter them later on. This screen in the software is also where you change the RGB lighting. You can turn on or off various telemetry controlled effects or customize each one. This is the level of granularity that I'd hoped for, as I didn't want my wheel flashing at me uncontrollably and not be able to turn it off. Instead, I can choose to disable the telemetry I don't want to use and keep elements such as the pit limiter enabled, and I do love that you can change the colour and behaviour of each telemetry lighting setting as well. You can choose the colour and whether the light blinks and at which speed it blinks at. Or if telemetry RGB isn't your thing, you can choose any static colour or disable the lighting altogether. Now, I'm getting to the bit that really matters, and that's the performance. This is where SIMAGIC has spent a lot of time improving things. All 3 of these new wheelbases boast the same improved force feedback algorithm and internal motor. SIMAGIC has chosen an ultra low inertia servo motor, and this results in much sharper and smoother force feedback than before. With this motor, the force feedback is lightning fast and really comparable to the fastest responding wheels around, such as the Fanatec Clubsport DD. What I really noticed during my first few laps on track was just how smooth the force feedback feels, and this is in part thanks to SIMAGIC's zero cog-in technology. Many wheels from other brands, including Fanatec, MOZA and Thrustmaster, occasionally suffer from stuttering. You'll see here, when I'm rotating my Fanatec wheel shaft, that the rotation isn't entirely smooth. The wheel sticks in certain places, giving that impression of stuttering or some sort of gear mechanism. Doing the same with my SIMAGIC Alpha Evo, I noticed some small amount of juddering, but way less than I've got with my Fanatec wheel. And this is amplified on track, with the Evo wheelbase delivering one of the smoothest force feedback experiences I've ever felt. It's really up there with the impressive Acertec and Simucube wheelbases in terms of that smoothness. You can feel this especially in slower corners when making smooth sweeping inputs, and it's allowed me to be incredibly precise with my steering. Like many sim racing brands, SIMAGIC has introduced a new force feedback filtering algorithm. This ensures consistent torque with really no peaks or fluctuations and lets you really feel the weight of your car and the details on the track surface. The precision and sharpness of both inputs are thanks to a new 21-bit encoder, which is an upgrade over the older 18-bit encoder, and the wheel also supports 360Hz force feedback mode in iRacing. Quite honestly, the force feedback from this wheel blew me away. I keep having to remind myself of the price of this wheel, as the quality of the force feedback, the details, the response time and the smooth nature often beats what premium brands are offering. Now a lot of the consistency is thanks to the cooling, and I've been racing with this wheelbase often for hours at a time, or having the wheelbase on for an entire day while I'm filming. And the internal cooling does a great job of dissipating the heat, with some actual real vents at the rear and just underneath the front. The wheelbase does get a little bit warm to the touch like many others, but it never gets hot. And that brings me to my final conclusion. Many sim racing brands have found their lane and stuck to it. Simucube and Acertech are your premium wheels. Fanatec and MOZA have battled for that mid-range supremacy, while brands such as Thrustmaster and Logitech typically offer budget wheels. SIMAGIC has always been the brand that bridges the performance and value gap. This Alpha Evo goes further in this direction than ever, with the ultra competitive prices and insanely good performance. Each of these wheel variations makes a strong case when compared against any other brand. I've always personally looked at Fanatec as being one of the benchmark brands, say the Apple of sim racing, and I've always had a Fanatec wheel on one of my rigs at pretty much all times. I agree you do have to pay a premium for their hardware, but generally everything just works pretty well. However, with the recent Fanatec price increases and quite frankly the excellent force feedback that these SimMagic wheelbases offer, I think my daily sim racing wheel may have just become the Alpha Evo Pro. Despite the rather gimmicky RGB lights, the smooth and precise force feedback make this the wheelbase to beat in 2025.